Welcome back, everyone. Today we're going deep into Mahogany Hammock.
Okay.
It's a really unique spot in the Everglades.
Interesting.
Yeah, you know those classic Everglades pictures, right? The sawgrass prairies stretching forever.
Yeah, those are so iconic.
Exactly. But right in the middle of all that grass, there are these like islands of trees and plants.
Oh, wow.
They're called hardwood hammocks, and they rise up a little bit above the prairie.
So they're like little mini forests.
Yeah. And this one, Mahogany Hammock, it's got something super special.
What's that?
The biggest living mahogany tree in the whole U.S.
No way.
Yeah. We've got a travel blogger who went there, some official stuff from the Park Service, and even some art inspired by the place.
So we've got like personal experience and science and art all mixed together.
Exactly. It's going to be a good one.
I'm excited.
So this blogger, they're walking on the boardwalk at Mahogany Hammock, and they say it's like entering another world.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they talk about the air feeling different and quiet and all these trees and plants surrounding them.
Wow. It sounds peaceful.
It does. And it's interesting because even though these hammocks are only a tiny bit higher than the prairies, they don't flood during the wet season.
Ah, so that's why they're so different.
Right. And that tiny height difference means a whole different set of plants and animals can live there.
They're like little havens of biodiversity.
Exactly. The blogger even says coming out of the hammock back into the sun felt like leaving an air-conditioned room.
That's wild.
Right. It's amazing how much of a difference a tiny change in elevation can make.
It really shows how the Everglades are this amazing patchwork of different environments just based on little changes in the water and the height of the land.
And speaking of amazing things, this blogger got to see the giant mahogany tree itself.
I bet that was impressive.
Oh yeah, they describe it as this huge presence right next to the boardwalk.
I can only imagine.
And apparently it's over 100 feet tall and so wide you can't even hug it all the way around.
Wow, that's incredible. It's amazing that a tree that big can even survive.
Right, and you know, mahogany trees used to be everywhere in South Florida, but then logging and development, took a lot of them out.
Yeah, it's sad how much we've lost.
It is, but this giant mahogany is like a symbol of what used to be.
A survivor.
Exactly. And there's so much more than just the mahogany there, too.
What else did they see?
The blogger mentions strangler figs. Have you ever heard of those?
I think so. What are they like?
They have this crazy life cycle where they basically strangle other trees.
Whoa, really?
Yeah. They saw gumbo limbo trees and those sable palms and slash pines that you always see in Florida pictures.
It sounds like a real mix of different plant life.
It is, each with its own story and its own role to play in the ecosystem.
Like that strangler fig, it starts as a tiny seed way up high in another tree.
How does it even get up there?
Birds or bats usually drop them there.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, then the fig sends roots down to the ground, they get thicker and thicker, and eventually they just like choke the host tree.
So it's like a battle for sunlight up there in the canopy.
You could say that, yeah.
And it makes you think about survival in a whole new way.
It really does.
And speaking of survival, Mahogany Hammock is a great spot for birds too. The blogger saw barred owls.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and even some young bald eagles.
Really? That's fantastic.
I know, right? Talk about a perfect place for bird watching.
Yeah, when you see a lot of different birds in a place, it usually means it's a healthy environment.
Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah, they need the right resources to survive, so if they're thriving, it's a good sign.
So Mahogany Hammock is doing something right then.
Sounds like it.
And I was looking at the National Park Service website, and they say the trail through Mahogany Hammock is only about a half-mile long.
That's not bad at all.
Right. It's a nice, easy loop, so more people can enjoy it.
Definitely. Not everyone wants to go on a super long hike.
Exactly. And it's wheelchair accessible, too.
That's great.
Yeah, so everyone can experience this amazing place.
I love that.
Plus, it's a self-guided trail, so you can go at your own pace.
That's nice. You can really take your time and see everything.
And here's something I bet you didn't know.
What's that?
The parking lot for Mahogany Hammock is actually a great spot for stargazing.
Really? Why is that?
It's so remote. There's not a lot of light pollution.
Oh, I see.
The blogger even said you might be able to see the International Space Station from there.
Wow. So you go to see this incredible tree, and then you end up looking at the stars, too.
It's pretty amazing, right?
It really shows how everything's connected in a way.
I know what you mean. From these tiny little plants to this giant tree to the whole night sky.
And speaking of different perspectives, you mentioned art inspired by Mahogany Hammock earlier.
Yeah, that's right.
What kind of art are we talking about here?
Well, I saw some really beautiful black and white photographs online.
Oh, cool.
They really capture the way the light filters through the leaves.
I can picture that. The contrast between the dark shadows and the bright sunlight.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And there are some artists who create sculptures and paintings based on the shapes and textures of the hammock's plants.
It's like they're translating the feeling of the place into art.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it.
So it's not just scientists and nature lovers who are interested in Mahogany Hammock.
Not at all. It's inspiring artists, too.
That's awesome.
So we've learned a lot about this really special place today.
We have.
We've explored this little hidden world in the middle of the Everglades.
With its giant mahogany tree.
And all the other cool plants, like the strangler fig.
And we even talked about the possibility of seeing eagles and the space station.
It's been quite a journey.
It really shows how much variety there is in the Everglades.
Even though a lot of people will just think of it as a big grassy plain.
Right. But there are all these little pockets of amazing biodiversity tucked away.
And Mahogany Hammock is a perfect example of that.
It really makes you appreciate the complexity of nature.
And how important it is to protect these unique places.
Yeah, it really makes you think, doesn't it? Like, who knew that just a little bit higher ground could create a whole different world?
I know, it's amazing, isn't it? And it makes you wonder, if something that small can make such a big difference, what happens when we change the environment even a little bit?
That's a really good point. We always hear about climate change and stuff.
Right.
But it's easy to forget how interconnected everything is.
Yeah, like one little change can have a huge impact on everything else.
Exactly, like a domino effect.
And Mahogany Hammock, it's like this little reminder of how delicate the balance is.
It really is.
So to everyone listening, if you ever get the chance to visit the Everglades, definitely check out Mahogany Hammock.
Oh yeah, it's worth the trip.
You can walk the boardwalk and see that giant mahogany tree for yourself.
And maybe even see some eagles or those amazing starry skies.
And if you can't make it to the Everglades in person,
there are still ways to experience it.
right?
Look for pictures online, check out the National Park Service website.
You could even look up some of the art inspired by Mahogany Hammock.
It's a great way to get a taste of this amazing place.
And who knows, maybe it'll inspire you to explore other hidden gems in nature.
That's what we hope for.
Well, that brings us to the end of our deep dive into Mahogany Hammock.
It's been a pleasure.
Thanks for joining us, everyone. We hope you enjoyed learning about this incredible ecosystem.
And until next time, keep exploring and stay curious.